Hello YouTube, Infinite Magicraid community. Earlier today I saw I got voted 97-3. I really got to make a video about this. So you see, last week or last round of championship, I ran into broken hand in the round of 16 or the round of 32 and I lost, right? So the natural thing to do this time around for the rematch, I will study the heck out of every single one of his teams. Seeing that people vote 97-3, I'm sure he's confident and he's not going to change his team. And I went in there, checked every single one of his teams, checked his speed, looked for the lowest defense on his team, and unfortunately there wasn't anything there to take advantage of. His Ascendo had higher defense than his Marcus. So if I tried the Lydia turn one poke, which many of you try to do, remember that only works if their Ascendo was, the lowest defense. So that didn't work. So I wasn't going to set up my auto attacks on my Lydia to poke. That didn't work. I also checked his space. His space, same thing, wasn't the lowest defense on his team. So that's also something for you to remember. If you want to, build your space or your Ascendo, make sure they're not the lowest defense on your team, right? I also went, I studied this last team and I found this was pretty much the biggest opportunity for me. I had enough gear to make sure that I was faster than his space and his DMU here, so I could easily cleave his last team with my space setup. And I feel like Aptoide will be able to take advantage of this team to nuke it as well as the other team. So that was kind of what I banked on. I thought I was gonna be able to take out his last team with my setup here. So ignore the right hand side, but the left hand side was the match of how I set up my team against him. I made sure I was faster than him on Cthulhu and space, so I could clearly nuke him. The second team, I have a pseudo cleanse set up with Big Jack. I checked his speed and I was able to find enough gear to be just 3 speed faster than what I checked for. And for the last team, the idea was having both Atkins and Xiaoying. I was gonna hopefully be able to create the opening that I needed for Aptoide to proc. So we'll take a quick pause for a sponsor break, and we'll come back with the results. Aptoide is a great way to save on the games that you play. Here, following the link in the description below, you're taken to download Infinite Magicraid on the Aptoide platform, as well as the AppCoins Wallet. Once you have downloaded them, you can open up the AppCoins Wallet to set it up. You can see there are many games that you can play on the Aptoide platform, and these games are very popular, and you will be able to save for all of the games that you play, and you'll be earning towards credits in your AppCoins Wallet. Please be sure to manage your wallet, back it up. You can link it to your own banking information, and making sure backing it up means you save all the credits in case you ever have to move devices or reinstall. When you go to the rewards section, this is where you can see the level of bonuses you have. From all the purchases I've made over my lifetime playing, I have earned myself towards 14% bonus as a base bonus. But when you use my promo code Gandalf5, you are going to get a 5% extra when you are spending on Infinite Magicraid. Once you go inside the game, you will notice that whenever you purchase any packs, now that as you're making these purchases, the payment screen is different, and you will know that you're working when the Aptoide app comes up. You have the option to pay regularly through your credit cards or PayPal, but if you have enough AppCoin credits, you can see you will be able to have the option of paying directly through the credits. And over here, you can see I'm earning 19% for every dollar I spent. And what's more important, you're saving on the taxes, because this is a lot cheaper than if you were to pay through, say, Google Play or through the Apple Store. By using an emulator, you will be able to also log in on a computer through your Apple ID. So I hope you are able to save and make your money's worth and get extra out of what you spend. So we're back, and the 97% of you are right. I did end up losing this one. I was actually really looking forward to winning. I know the odds were very much stacked against me, but I gave a very good shot, and it was 5-4. It was really close. A couple match came down to be super close. One of them I want to showcase is in the second round, where I won this one, and this was DMU Indra taking multiple hits to make it happen. It actually was surprisingly scary on the receiving end for me because his Moshi did end up going, and it scared the heck out of me when that happened. So here you can see again, the pseudo cleanse works extremely well, but there's multiple CCs I have to deal with. It kind of shows the power of how strong Muro is in these setup. But slowly, surely, I was able to cleave away at his team members one at a time. Morikis went on to the second life. And these resets, we're able to get through. Fortunately enough, with Muro and the amount of healing and the damage reduction, I was able to sustain myself and finish with, I think, everyone intact on this particular team. Yeah, and then from there it was kind of over, and then his Muro is going to fall next. Now I'm going to borrow you with all of the footage. The last one caught me off guard. I was actually expecting to win the last one. And that's when I realized I screwed up because his Moshi actually ended up just killing everything. I wasn't able to proc Airto at all, and his Muro was able to heal through. What I think I could have done differently was if I didn't make this switch, because normally I actually have Santa in here. Being CC'd, I would have got the extra turn, and Santa would have, gotten me the boost I needed, and I don't think having Santa or Atkins would have made a difference to the effectiveness of this team. Another thing I could have done is when it comes to fighting his Airto team over here, is on the first team, I made a very grave mistake. And you can see the replay right here where I naturally won first, and I actually hit him pretty hard because Airto doesn't have that much damage reduction, and Moshi is a great way to counter Airto because all of her hits are multiple. What you need to make sure is that your team is actually tanky enough to survive that counter burst. And a great way of doing that is actually to, instead of putting Santa there, I could have put Nordak there. And this is where, I kind of learned and, applied that in terms of optimizing my team afterwards when going to Advanced Arena and to tweak my team a little bit further. The second match was the one that kind of made me really, really annoyed. And this was a very, very close match. Really, I think it could have went either way. But I think it's also because at that very last moment, which you will see is, I'm pretty sure that I did not have those swords up for my team, which is super important. It is a problem when you run DMU and Indra, is they end up taking a lot of extra turns, and they lose that little sword thing. So you can see right in my Indra right now is exposed, but we just got our shield shroud up, and we're okay. So we took out one of his enemies. This is very similar to the last match that we saw, and you can see I took out another. Things are going really, really well, right? For me. And is at this moment, I realized I screwed up because he got another life from there, and I took out him for the second time. But this time you can see what's different is Airto actually had the spotlight from Jack and Roll, and I think it's that extra damage boost there that made a big difference, allowed the procs to chain, and she just literally wiped out my entire team, which is very unfortunate. It was very close. So yeah, well played, Broken Hands. This is probably the closest championship I've had match in a long time. I look forward to facing you. I was trying to find you in the advanced arena, but I couldn't. So we tested our teams on a lot of other people, and again, it's all for optimizing the team. There is no targeting whatsoever here. There's a lot of top players I hit from both even my own guild, and hopefully they don't feel upset. And it's a shout out for your teams in the arena. Instead of going through the battles, I actually just thought maybe it's better to go through some of the records and highlight some of the fights. So I started out with Drago. Drago is a very tough opponent, and every single player you see that I'm showcasing here, they're much higher level. Yaroust is completely at a different level, and I just gave up. It was just unwatchable, so we're not going to go there. I started out with Drago. I was trying to go for the Airto Maroon team here, and which kind of gave me an idea around, even with my last team, could I have done better if I actually put space here, and maybe, put Big Jack over here and, did something different with my first team, because having speed here gives me a little bit more option, right? And Airto was back here, and if I sped up, could I have, attacked unprepared team from that perspective? Because right now there's a lot more diversity to the way you can run teams. There's usually 3 core members, and you can get a tech option in here. I'm not going to show the replay, but basically in this replay you will see how broken these heroes go together with the extra shields and Nordak. It's just really, really difficult to break through. And Drago have higher stats than me. The next one I went to over was Fento R5, and I managed to 3-0 Fento. Here is where I talked about, taking the learnings from, your past mistakes and improving upon it. And here you can see that by having Nordak on my team, it completely changed the dynamic a little bit when it comes to surviving Airto procs. And you can see his Airto did proc, but, with that extra shield off the bat, nobody got knocked more than 25% off. So then I was safe from additional procs, right? So that was really important. And I wish I thought about that earlier in terms of my match. I feel like with this match, the setup I further optimized my team just that little bit more by making that simple trade between Atkins and Nordak. Moving from Fento, I think we went over to Genmorph or Genomorph. And in Genomorph's battle, what caught me off guard was how tanky this particular setup is. So for those of you who don't have Lydia on defense could be a nightmare to deal with, especially you have multiple ways of preventing yourself from death. Moshi is starting to probably fall in terms of power. What I'll say is here, I do have a Lance. And I can't wait until I E3 my Lance, because Lance is probably going to go into the spot. And hopefully, the nuking capability of Lance will, power me to a whole different level. But you can see here, as soon as Moshi kind of loses her chain of kills, I'm kind of in a very vulnerable situation. And this didn't, end well for me. You can probably see from the amount of buffs and shields on me, I wasn't breaking through, and I just got bruised to death on that one. The other two is kind of expected. Obviously the last one I was able to counterattack and create the opening for the Airto proc, and here, I just one-shot him because there's nothing really helping to survive a big hit from Mural. After that, we had the horrible run-in with Uraust. Then we went over to Immortal. And this is where mistakes are made, right? The last one, I could have just poked again with Lydia, and I would have outsped him, but I wasn't paying attention, and I autoed, and I lost that one. Then afterwards, against Demi Fiend, who's in our guild, I was surprised at what happened on the first battle. And I think it's worth watching here. And this is something that caught me off guard. I thought I had this one in the bag, mainly because I was thinking about that I could go through. But first of all, he has a pretty decent Nordak from a speed perspective, and he had a faster showering, and that immediately created the opening for him, and I wasn't able to take advantage of my setup, and I completely got disposed of real quick. Now his other two teams, I did the same to him. Lance is scary. Lance unfortunately did not proc, and here you can see when Lance does not proc, I have a good opportunity to quickly finish things. And even with, that pushback from Ronai, right? Things were okay on my end. And, the pseudo cleanse really make these two the core two heroes, Jack and Muron together, to be a pseudo cleanse option. Moving on. From Demi Fiend, we have Zero Cool, which I 3-0'd. I think from this battle, I think the most important highlight is actually the second battle, because this was the first Mural and Aeroto team I was able to beat. And here's where I feel like, because it's a slow team, right? Heng is a hero that takes time to charge up, and if you don't charge up, it will take a while to do damage. And here you can see I took advantage of the turn reset, and I pushed a lot of their resetted a lot of their skills with Ben Austin. The same thing can be said with with Lydia E2. And if you happen to have a Lydia, I think replacing Ben Austin here will be a very good setup as an alternative, and just play very defensively, steal all their buffs over, and which you saw, one of my opponents did to me. It was very painful. Ben Austin doesn't work very well against Lydia, so don't try this. What you'll find is a very frustrating experience where, all of your joint attack doesn't work because of her passive at E2 for Airtel. So don't do this. I was hoping to create an opening, but it never ended up happening. What surprised me was how hard my Mural hit. So it's all about cycling Mural turns, getting the mastery from his swords every time turns are taken. And early game, this combo is absolutely deadly. And the other teams weren't too big of a surprise in terms of how I won. And finally, we have Mogul, where I won 3-0 as well. The second team, again, showcasing the pseudo cleanse. I do want to showcase a little bit on the last one is, if you ever happen to face Lance, and this is where you think about is, yes, you can get first turn, but Atkins, again, is a very good play against these teams. So here you can just see, as much as Lance, he's very strong offensively, this is a great way to combine, Airto and Atkins. And Ronai, yes, will get you the extra turn, but sometimes when you also get counterplay by Atkins, very hard. So yeah, that's kind of the overview. Hopefully, got a good chance to showcase the new team. Hopefully give you some ideas on how to pick your matchups, as well as how you can optimize your team a little bit further. I think when it comes to PvP, it's all about adapting the meta and learning from the mistakes. And it's really important to watch these replays and study them, because in PvP, the meta is changing so quickly recently, and team building isn't as straightforward as it used to be. And there's a lot of really neat interactions we can all learn from. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Gandalf out.